We are going to work on two things today: switch playlist and rename playlist. Let's first work on the switching playlist, meaning when I select one playlist, it will display the songs of that playlist on the right side. This could be done by monitoring the selection change of the outline wheel. Starting from here within the NSTextFieldDelegate implementation, we are going to implement this method, outline wheel selection did change. It is a notification method. In Cocoa application, many classes like outline wheel or collection wheel like to use this kind of notification system to tell what kind of actions are being done on that particular class. In this case, would be the selection did change. Since we have chosen or selected one particular playlist, we can trigger further notification to our songs list on the right side in order to reload the data for that particular playlist. We want to send this notification together with our current playlist. So I first prepare my current playlist object, which I could take it from the playlist array using the outline wheel selected row. When we have the current outline wheel, the first item there is not able to be selected, which is like the root item, and that doesn't count inside this array. So to get the correct object from the array, we need to have a -1 index. So the second row having the index of 1 will become the selected row here, and -1. So this will get the 0 index, meaning the first object of the playlist array. Then I'm going to post this notification using NS notification center .default center .post notification name. We are going to use the user info method. The thing here, perhaps we need to define a new variable in the constants. Say switch playlist, and then I need to define in the constants here. We'll be sending the playlist through user info, so I'm going to define that variable as well. In the object here will be self, and then in the user info will be constants notification user infos playlist as we just defined, and then send it with the playlist object. On the other side of the song list view controller, I'm going to observe this new notification and handle it within this view controller using the switch playlist method. And then set the name from the constants. Then define the function of switch playlist in order to handle the notification. As we have done many times of notification setting, this becomes more familiar to all of us. Always use Xcode to check while we have the corresponding info, in this case penis, without the necessary information available, it makes no sense in running the rest of the code in this method. After getting the penis, we can update the songs array within this view controller using the one from the penis.songs. This is a list class from ROM, and I need to convert that into an array. I could use map again. The new array is set to songs, and since we don't have any reload data in this set of songs array, we could do it here as well. Table will reload data. So what we did is by selecting a playlist on the left side, it sends a notification to the right side, and then set up with the new songs array and reload the table. Now click the first playlist and then the second playlist. Cool. Next thing, what we are going to do is to rename the playlist here. As we further add more playlists, we just don't want all of these calling the same name. Before going to that, I'm going to commit what we have right now. Cool. Then back to playlist view controller again. Since OSX 10.10, it is suggested to use the text view based outline view with the NSControl to handle the modification of the control elements within outline view. So in this case, I'm going to set up the control delegate of the NSTextField. I will use this view controller to handle that as well, but I need this NSTextFieldDelegate, which is NSTextField is a subclass of NSControl, and then I could implement this method, control tested editing. Theoretically, this will be called when the text field is added and the user press an enter button also, and then we can gather the text field information and then save it to the ROM database. In order to use this text field delegate, we need to set the delegate method of each text field when we are modifying. So let's do it one by one. First, we want to make sure our current text field in the outline view can be modifiable or editable. We switch to the song.storyboard where our outline view locates. And then this is the text field we want to modify. We first look at the table column here and check the attributes inspector. Make sure the state is selected as editable. Then go to the text field here. This is the text field we want to modify. On the right side, or again in attributes inspector, under behavior, we want to choose it as editable. Next, back to the playlist view controller. In the method view for table column, where we set up the NS view to be used and also set the value into that view, we want to set the text field here with the delegate pointing to our current view controller. Like this, equal to self. Let's run and take a look. Now if I double click on the playlist, it will allow me to modify the content. Enter to send, and at this moment, this control test, the end editing should be called. Before going forward, I want to mention several things. First, in this playlist, when I modify, I only want to modify the name of the playlist, but not the count. The count should be getting from the room database instead of modifying by a user like this. I will be going to separate this test field into a separate label, and the user will only modify the playlist name. Also, one mistake I made before, this will for table column method should be an implementation of NSOutline data source. So as you can see, as long as the playlist view controller extension implements the related protocol, you can define or implement those protocol methods anywhere within the scope of your class or the extension. But what I did before to separate those into different extensions would be better for code organization. And in some cases, you may want to separate the extension into another file to make each of your file size smaller. I mean, in terms of number of lines. Some people suggest that each file in an Xcode project should not have more than 250 lines. But it's up to you to organize your code. In this case, I will first move this back to the NSOutline data source extension to make it more clear. Alright, so in this case, I'm going to take out the count for now and put it as a comment here first. I will be setting this later on. And then within the control test, the end editing, I first want to gather the final value of the test field. I could access the test field here using the object notification. The way to do that would be using this object. So actually this is the notification. It's like the notification.object would be the sender of this notification. And in this case, it's we are checking whether this is a test field. If it is true, then we can print the value of this test field. At this point will be the value after editing. Let's try. So now I skip out the count, and then I'm going to modify the value here. Now it prints out the final value I got from this test field. With this final value, we are able to save it or persist it into room database. But of course, I want to know which playlist I'm modifying as well. What I could do is to make use of our outline view. can use a method row for view and pass in the text field. This will help us to get the row number, like the selected index we used before. Selected row we used before. In fact, the system doesn't know text field is NSTextField for now. I need to cast it when I define this text field variable. As NSTextField is a subclass of NSView, it is now able to pass into this function row for view and get the row number. The row number is just like here to help us access the correct playlist we are modifying. So I could do playlist here and access the row -1 for the correct playlist object. Then I'm going to use rom to write the new value to our playlist dot name equal to this text field dot string value. Okay, I need to run try here. So after all, the new name should be saved to ROM, and the next time I run the application, it should show as the new playlist name. So now, modify it, and I'm going to run the application again. It knows the new name from the room database, and now we have a way to separate our playlists from each other. As promised, I need to add back the cans here. The way to do that, if we look at the song.storyboard for the outline view, right now for this NS table cell view, there are two elements, one image view and one text view here. Basically, I'm going to add a new text field, which is the label as I want, and put it within this NS table cell view. I will give a default value here, and then as I'm not going to do any auto layout for now, I will just modify a little bit on the size of the playlist name. And then to access this text view, I will need to subclass the NS table cell view. And I call it custom table cell view. Store it next to our playlist view controller. And then I'm going to add an IP outlet to this custom table cell view. So by opening side by side, I'm going to create a new reference. The reason it didn't allow me to create the IP outlet is because I didn't set this NS table cell view to the class that we just created. Now I should be able to drag to the class, and I will call this variable song count. After setting this new class and go back to playlist view controller, whenever I make the view from this identifier data cell, I would cast it to our new custom table cell view class. And then from here, I'm able to access the new variable song count and set the string value to display this songs.count. It's time to take a look. So now it's shown. To make sure it is working, we drag one more song to the first playlist here, and it updates accordingly. Selecting the new song is over there. That's it for today.